You're listening to The Adventuring Party, talking about gaming the Irish way. Cade Mila Vulture, you son of a gun.
Welcome to the party. I'm Space Pirate Warlord Scarr.
I am the diamond hardest of sci-fi, SavageMick.
I'm on.
And I am Dave. And we're talking Traveller, the classic sci-fi RPG.
Classic sci-fi RPG. Yeah, no one plays. Let me tell you everything I know about Traveller. You can die during character creation. Isn't that hilarious? We're never speaking about that again, right?
That's the only thing. Actually,
I mean, I kind of want to.
Always talks of it's like the only thing they know about it.
I know, but I kind of want to address that one at some point. But
just wanted to get it out of the way. Our listeners, we know that you know that we can die in character creation during Traveller, whatever edition. But yeah, we'll be talking about some other parts, but that is literally all I know about it. Right, you were saying, Scarr.
I think everyone was saying different bits, but
yeah.
I mean, okay, so this is 1976, 75? It was very early in the
77.
Yeah,
77. Yeah. It's probably the second sci-fi RPG or second big sci-fi RPG that came out. You've got
not Gamma World. What was the
Metamorphosis Alpha?
Yes,
the sort of precursor. No, it's not. But they're both from TSR. They're both about playing mutants. Gamma World is often recommended above Metamorphosis Alpha, which is a bit of a narrower, weirder premise, and I think has kind of been lost. Well, it's not lost, but it's certainly less important. If you look back, you've got 74 is D&D. Then you got Tunnels and Trolls. Then you got Empire of the Petal Throne, Chivalry and Sorcery. We're still well in fantasy. Arduin, Rune Quest. Then Metamorphosis Alpha, Traveller, Gamma World. Then we're the superheroes with Superhero 2044, right? So we've got, it's one of the first sci-fi RPGs. Now, why in the devil are we talking about Traveller? Well, for me, I've never played Traveller. But what happened was, Mark Millar, the creator of Traveller, is getting on a bit, and he has officially handed over Traveller to Mongoose Publishing. At the moment, there are kind of two iterations of Traveller going. There's Mongoose Traveller 2nd Edition, which is very similar to old Traveller in a lot of ways. And there's a Traveller 5th Edition, which was Mark Millar's kind of produced RPG. He's still doing his own thing, but this is them handing it over to say, look, I'm getting on a bit. Someone needs to take care of this. And Mongoose are the guys I've picked.
Is Mark Millar an American?
I assume so, but let me just check.
There's Mark Millar, the comic book guy.
Yeah, there's Mark Millar, the comic book guy. Miller with an E. Mark William Miller. He is United States, yes.
Okay. Now, it's always a chance of Canadians being involved, but
if Mark Millar had anything to do with it, the early edition would have had an awful lot more swearing.
We'd be lucky if it was just swearing.
It was just swearing, yeah. It would have mirrored the Gap series quite closely. Is that the thing? Yeah, it was. Do you remember the Gap series, the sci-fi series? I think it was called the Gap. It had a lot of what could be termed as controversial themes.
Yeah,
requiring viewer discretion.
That's Millar. That's Millar's country, you know.
Millar's milieu.
Yeah.
I never read it, or maybe I got through about 80 pages of the first one. Very hard sci-fi, even harder read.
Absolutely. For my money, the first edition of Traveller's box cover is one of the best covers in any RPG in terms of selling you on the concept of, it's the free Trader Beowulf, you know.
The distress call.
Yeah, that's one of the strongest covers in an RPG because it's not like anything that's been done. Well, not many things have done stuff like that since. Yeah. It's doing a scenario, but rather than doing it as an image, it's doing it as a radio transmission, as a piece of text. It's incredibly interesting.
Folks, really quickly. You can. Yeah. You just want to get on the space blower and space jargon and play kind of space trucker. Is it fair to say that one of the things that sets Traveller apart from the hardish sci-fi, is that it has a kind of a very blue-collar professionals in space kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
It's going for that anyways in the character creation.
Yeah. Now, I was kind of going, I've never really dipped into Traveller. And I said, now is the time to go take a look. Have a poke around, see what there's there for it. Is it just a toolbox? Is there a strong setting? Do they have adventures? I was interested. I was going, let's go have a dig. Let's see what they've done. Because some RPGs have very interesting settings. They have interesting mechanics. And then they have no adventures. They provided you the toolbox to play the game, but they haven't actually shown you how to play the game yet. Because I think a strong adventures are actually important to an RPG doing well. And I said, okay, let's go have a poke around and see what's good. And I took a look and I said, I knew that Mongoose's Traveller was often accused of having quite a scatty kind of layout and not looking great. But I checked the new editions and apparently that they've tidied that all up. They've really brought it along. They've made it a nice, clear looking, nice readable text. Now, it's still, do you like tables? You got tables in this guy, but they're very well formatted tables. They're nicely presented tables. There's some good stuff in here. Now, what did I know about Traveller going in? I knew the Traveller was a reasonably hard it's not really hard sci-fi. It's reasonably hard sci-fi RPG. I knew that, didn't know much about the setting. I knew it had an extensive life path character creation, and I think one of the first iterations of a life path character creation. And that, of course, in the first version of Traveller, you could die in character creation, which was true.
Yeah.
All right. I was always explained to me as you could lose stats, but no, you can actually just straight up die in the old one. So I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, and I believe that was sort of a meant almost as a balancing mechanic, because this is this is an RPG that doesn't tend to have, like, at least the first edition did not really have what we would call an XP system.
No.
So the character creation was basically how old do you want your character to be, and you get that determines how many rolls you get on career tables. That helps your skills, helps your stats, but obviously there has to be a balancing factor. So there's the thing of the more rolls you make, the higher risk each roll is, and that's where you start having more negative events and more stat losses, and eventually the chance that you'll die, particularly if you take a military career and try to be a combat monster. That was their balancing mechanic. Wasn't like it was a risk reward idea.
Interesting choices.
Yeah, and again, this was 3 years into what we consider commercial RPG development. They were still trying new things, and this was their different things. I wonder, did people find it weird at the time, or was it like people in the 80s coming in and finding Traveller going, this thing doesn't have an XP system, you just die in character creation? I have to wonder when this legend started, because it's one of those things, looking back, like, when did people start thinking it was weird?
Mike Pondsmith, he of Cyberpunk 2020 fame, has always said that Traveller was his gateway into the hobby. He wasn't big into D&D. He was like, it's all right. But then he saw Traveller. He's like, oh my god, this is the game I want. And he was like, okay, I'm not doing a direct kind of sci-fi RPG. He said, but I will do a cyberpunk RPG. And he did
quite a life path for it.
Yeah, he did. There's a lot of Traveller sprinkles in Cyberpunk, because you look at the life path system and you're like, yeah, that's pretty good. He did a game called Imperial Star where he tried to improve the combat system of Traveller. It was never released, but he built it. So I think that's pretty cool stuff, and I think it is a very influential RPG, even if you don't directly see its stock. So I dipped in and I said, okay, what's this like? I knew some stuff, and I said, okay, I'm interested. What content are they also producing? What accessory stuff? And there's a mountain of source books that Mongoose have done with regards to gear and toys. And because if XP isn't a big selling point for your advancement. What you need to be doing instead is you be giving people gear, you give them stuff.
Mhm.
And the lands of Traveller are well stocked with toys. There's a ship book, there's a vehicle book, there's a gear book, there's a robot book. You know, they're like, here's all the stuff you might want to pick up. And then a little past that, I said, oh, there's some adventures here. And there's two that I was like, oh, these both trigger my I'm interested button. The first one is Deep Night Revelation, which is effectively a journey into deep space to look into a mysterious signal coming from deep space that you're being sent on an exploration cruiser to find. And then there's the Pirates of Drynax, which everyone goes gaga for. Do you know who wrote the Pirates of Drynax?
I assume it's not Mark Millar.
Was it Larry?
It's a noted industry figure.
Oh, Gar Hanrahan himself?
Gar Hanrahan himself, late of the parish and noted industry figure, wrote the Pirates of Drynax.
Very good.
And
hello, Gar. How you doing?
Absolutely. And it was written only like time ago, like 2020 or something. 2019, 2020.
Wow.
And but I was like, oh, this must be from the 70s something. No. But everyone talks about it. Yep, amazing. Absolutely epic, definitive campaign. I was like, that's pretty good going for the new kid. I mean, usually there's a bit of, especially the older ones, a little harumping from the grognards. I don't think so. You know, this newfangled stuff. No, everyone loves it. Sign of a true classic.
Wow.
That's interesting, especially given the pedigree and the age of the game, and that someone's out there still making good new stuff. I mean, given the volume of stuff's released, certain other unnamed systems that somehow manage to consistently fall short of the mark, despite the fact they've got the biggest budgets in gaming.
Absolutely. And you know what? Half the adventures in Pirates of Drynax, heist adventures.
Heists.
It does seem to be
are for
that.
delinquents. Well, I mean, it makes sense. What better dungeon than the hermetically sealed spaceship? There's only a couple of ways in and out. Everything in there is hostile or interesting or valuable, and you might find yourself on a clock before the auto turrets start to sniff you out. There's been Traveller's obviously had a huge influence on other games across different kinds of media. Do we think not in this? First of all, yes, obviously in the systemic sense, the ludological sense. Okay, never mind. Stop throwing around the big words, Savage. They're going to hurt you. But certainly, it has spawned, or at least it has kept a thread of hardish sci-fi genre games alive down the decades. Do we sort of want to point out some of its successors who haven't quite managed to dethrone it just yet?
There are. You see, the weird thing is, a lot of the successors to Traveller are other iterations of Traveller, or kind of join-ons from Traveller, because a lot of the other sci-fi stuff is licensed. Fantasy tends to sell way better than sci-fi, so the big sci-fi games are often a licensed game.
Star Wars,
Star Wars, and more recently Star Trek, and so on. People are like, oh, it's this licensed Aliens RPG and stuff. They're the bigger sci-fi RPGs. Like Traveller, initially, you could argue Cyberpunk, but some people would say, oh, it's kind of sci-fi. It's actually, it's a very specific type of sci-fi.
Yeah.
Traveller as the kind of space fantasy / science kind of hard sci-fi RPG. I mean, everyone, if you ask someone for that one, they'd be like, Traveller, and then maybe they might go, well, there's Eclipse Phase as well, I guess, and how about GURPS Traveller? And you're like, that's kind of still Traveller, guys, right?
Yeah. And I know in my king, the one I've come across a lot is Stars Outnumber, which is, again, very much a Traveller pastiche. It's even, I believe its 2d6 skill system was inspired by one edition of Traveller, but it's essentially kind of trying to bridge the gap and bring Traveller-style sandbox sci-fi mechanics into a more D&D like rule set. So it's, again, the author Jackson not Jackson Crawford. Mike. I can never remember this Crawford fellow's name because I keep Kevin Crawford. He believes that the D&D rule set is some form of lingua franca. You can debate him on that if you can find him, but he did try to make his own version of Traveller in the classic Heartbreaker fashion.
Oh dear.
I'm doing it again.
There's also the Cepheus engine. There is an SRD, so there are a bunch of games based on it. Such as Cepheus Deluxe, Hostile, which is more of a kind of an Aliens style RPG. And it like the 2d6 system, fairly hard sci-fi of Traveller lends itself very well to modern conflict style games. So there's been a few which are based on, say, modern armies.
So as far as I went back and had a look at the different versions of Traveller, and the original one was 1977 box set, 3 little digest-sized books, and later put into a rule book. That's usually referred to as classic Traveller nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And Traveller has changed over time, but it hasn't changed wackily. So by the time of Mongoose, it's still on 2d6. It's still doing a life path system. Combat still works the way it works, where basically you lose stats as you take damage, and that puts an innate death spiral on combat, which means that combat is really nasty. Armor reduces damage, so that becomes a big part of the game. Now, following off that, they did Mega Traveller in 1987. Now, the standard kind of setup for Traveller is that a reasonably benevolent empire called the Imperium rules a big chunk of the galaxy. And there are other alien empires and human polities around. And there are lots of weird borderlands and kind of areas that aren't claimed, fallen empires and stuff. And Traveller can be set in any one of those ones and get a different style of game. The most common one is the traders, hard Scrabble trading, just staying alive and making a bit of money. That's the kind of classic Traveller. But you can be pirates, you can be explorers, you can be a lot of different stuff, and it's deliberately like that. Mega Traveller was the next version of Traveller, which is in the mid-80s, and they collapsed the Imperium. The Empire is dead. The Emperor dies. The Imperium collapses. Interstellar trade falls apart, and it's most of the changes for them is rowing back to let's go back to old Traveller. That was better. That was better. They did Traveller, the New Era, which is where everything had kind of collapsed. And again, not crazily popular compared to the classic setting. So, the 4th edition Traveller, which is Mark Miller's Traveller, that's its title, comes out in the mid-90s and is kind of going back to the 3rd Imperium, back to the setting of classic Traveller. GURPS Traveller is set in an alternate timeline where Mega Traveller doesn't happen, and as a result, Traveller the New Era doesn't happen. And then Traveller 20 is the classic Traveller D20 mod from the early 2000s. GURPS Traveller, Interstellar Wars, is basically going back to 2170, which is thousands of years earlier than the classic Traveller setting. You got Traveller Hero, if you want to play in the Hero system. And then there's Mongoose Traveller, which comes out... First edition comes out in 2008, second edition comes out in 2016, and they've just done a 2022 update. Full colour production rather than black and white, and very similar to the original Traveller rules.
It's interesting to see Mongoose have finally developed to the point of having full color books and stuff, because I was there in 2002 when they were making the worst knockoff black and white D20 shovelware, and they've grown up.
Yeah, they have finally figured out that people like this color printing thing. Also, there is Traveller 5 or Traveller 5th edition, which is Mark Miller's kind of magnum opus rule set. 3 books, total of 800 pages. You can get it in a very chunky slipcase.
Sounds it.
Sounds promising.
Yeah. So I said, okay, God, where do I start here? And I was expecting the Shadowrun problem where I go on, it's like asking which religion is the right one. But I was recommended, no, Mongoose Traveller 2nd edition is a great book. And I said, all right, well, let's dip in there and let's grab that one and start taking a look. And I started reading through it and going, my God, this doesn't make a lot of the concessions modern game design does, because it's right into the tables. But I am digging it, let's go. And it's great. It's just great fun. You're looking through, you're going, okay, this is not... There's a decent amount of depth here, but it's not crazily complicated. It's relatively cut back and modest in some ways. But I was looking at there's value here. It's going to be mostly about kind of trying to, in fights, you're going to be trying to stay in cover, you're going to be trying not get hit, because getting hit is very unpleasant. You can dodge. You can basically go. There's a relatively clean dodge system. The life path system is still great. Generates little stories as you go. Very competent, very well put together. Really solid RPG at this stage. So I was like, oh, awesome. And there's a really cool adventure, Pirates of Draenax. I'm all in. I've got the core book coming to me. I've got Pirates of Draenax coming to me. I'm going to start setting some stuff up.
Nice. It does sound like it's inspiring. And it is, I guess, in this era of, packaged products versus the eternal cry of the sandbox gamers. It is Traveller is infamous for its sandbox nature, and rather than focus on just grind to the next dungeon, turning things loot. It's because it doesn't have or at least I still don't think XP and leveling and increasing stats is that big a part of it. I assume there's some concession in some of those many editions, but it is mostly an economic game where the base advice is the GM builds a sandbox and puts the players in it and see, hey, get rich or die trying.
Yeah.
I've heard something about the stereotypical Traveller campaign being you have a small trading ship and you have a mortgage to pay off.
That's definitely there. That's definitely there. So
Sounds like some of my favorite TV shows.
So in Mongoose 2nd edition, what happens is you start off someone and you're basically 16 and you're about to go to college, and you go, or say this is done in 4-year increments for the life path, and you go, okay, I'm going to try and go to college. So I was rolling up a character, and I said, all right, let's see what happens when he goes to college. He went to college, and it was an immediate disaster. He's a guy with good stats, good intelligence, and he was intelligence 11, he was strength 11. And I was like, okay, let's see what happens here. Go to college. All right, immediately have a horrifically bad breakup with my girlfriend. Bomb out of college as a result. Okay, well, that's me done with college. Unfortunately, I rolled a bad event at the table. I just went, I'm off. I've spiraled. Right. Now I hit the bottle, dropped out. I was like, all right. I've got a couple options left for me. I could become a drifter. I could join the draft. And join the draft I did. So I joined the Marines. And it was all going great. I was doing a couple of tours with the Marines. My commander made me space some traders to steal a cargo. I turned him in. I got promoted to an officer. And a disastrous accident, my next tour nearly killed me. So I crashed out. And at that point, my character's like, you know what? I could become I could become a drifter. I could try and get a new career. But sod this, I'm done. I'm going to go off, become a traveller now. But I could have kept going. So it's very organic. And it's very, you're making turn by turn kind of decisions. Every 4 years, you're going, okay, where's this character going now? What's he doing? So what are we doing next? And that was really cool. I was like, oh, this is very organic. And one of the things they do in the after you've done your character creation, it's advised everyone does character creation at the same time. And then once you're done, you pick up to 2 other travelers, and you pick one of those events that happened to you during your life path, and you go, hey, can you be there as well? We met up during that time, and you both get +1 skill in a related area that makes sense there. And that's how you two know each other. So the whole thing is trying to tie the group together that, yeah, you knew each other. We basically stole a cargo together. We both get computers 1 because we had to hack into the Oak. And off we go. And we know each other from that. So that's putting the team together. And when you're done, you cash out and you get to make a bunch of benefits rolls. So you might end up owning a ship. Or you might end up with a share of a ship. Or you might end up with a ship that you own 25% of, and you've still got payments to make on the rest. So you start off with your career, and generally it's like, okay, and there's a bunch of advice in there saying, okay, what do you do in a campaign that's going to give the players a ship? What do you do instead? And one of the things is like, no, you're grand. Someone else is running the ship. You just make 25,000 credits every year. That's the profits that get shuffled to you. And it's there, like the whole idea is you can end up with, oh cool, I've got a sword for my thing, I've got a gun with a bunch of mods, and I've got a 25% share in a ship with a bunch of quirks. Some of these are really bad quirks. These are not good quirks. These are quirks in the second-hand car sense, the word.
Oh no.
So
Something just fall off my Goram ship.
yeah, I think that is a common problem. So it's a very organic character creation process. It's a fun one. It's a great little minigame. It's the kind of thing you can keep doing you can roll up characters for fun. There's actually there's a bunch of online character creators that will take you through it for you. Tons of fun. Little develops a narrative around your character even before they start, If a character keeps crashing out every time you probably develop some insights into their personality, like, oh, this person keeps bombing out of the things when he tries to commit. There's a running theme there. You can play humans. There are a variety of aliens. In the setting, there is a species called the Ancients, which seeded humanity on multiple worlds and also uplifted dogs for whatever reason, or uplifted wolves. So there's a bunch of stuff like, oh, these guys look like lion people. They just look like lion people. They're not actually lion people. They don't even look that much like lion people. It's just we describe them as lion people. Now everyone draws them as lion people. Oh, fair enough. Oh, there's these Vaegir, these wolf guys. They just look like wolves. No. Earth wolves uplifted into wolves. Huh? Yeah, Earth wolves uplifted into wolves. I don't know what to tell you. Oh, okay. So there's a bunch of options there. There's a bunch of other races that you have options to play as you go along. You might even have psychic powers.
Oh.
It's unlikely, but you might have psychic powers, which seems on about the frequency of rolling up a specialist class in D&D. Maybe a little more common than that, but they're there. They're there. You can have psychic powers if you need. They're sort of illegal and persecuted, but there are places that will teach you how to use them. Advancement is default quite slow, but there are a couple of suggestions in some of the companion, which is some of the alt rules, about here's how you do training, because training was always available. You could train your skills up. It took 8 weeks, and you're like, oh my god, that's never going to happen during a campaign. Except that traveling in Traveler is not fast. When you jump, it takes the guts of a week to resolve a jump.
Okay.
And while you're resolving a jump, you're just sitting there. It's like, guess I'll do a week's training. And your standard ship basically can jump 1 parsec, which will eat up about one of the starting ships. It will eat up a little under half its fuel, or 2 parsecs, which will eat up most of its fuel, and then you need to go refuel. So hope you've landed somewhere where there's a refueling station, or you've got a ram scoop and there's a gas giant, because otherwise you might have some problems.
Okay. Why don't we move on to the burning question about this influential sci-fi RPG from the mid to late 70s. How much of it did GW steal for 40k?
I'd say they didn't steal a huge amount. I think if they stole anything, they might have maybe some of the concept of ancient tech and stuff. Because one of the interesting ideas and one of the things that's a little bit beyond Traveller is the concept of tech levels, which is kind of a shorthand.
yeah.
This is the tech that is available on this world, and the standard one goes from 1 to 15. And you're mostly playing around tech level 12. Earth is between tech level 7 and 8 currently. So it's kind of what tech is available. And they have a kind of list of like basic, like the kind of the general techs that are available. And if you're in a higher tech, you've got higher tech equipment in a lower tech area, it's really difficult to get it fixed, for example, because you're like, yeah, you guys don't know how to make graphitic plates yet and stuff. You can't
But
make
you do have
artificial
that
gravity.
advantage.
Yes, you do.
While it lasts.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Inferential. That's one of those inferential mechanics that is sort of propagated to other RPGs as you go. You see it pop up all the time.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So, successors. I mean, Traveller's obviously still going strong and potentially even stronger, but it's not without competition today, is it? Would we? I mean, and I get that back in the day they needed to try and appeal to every different flavor of space adjacent game. But is there a place for a generalist like Traveller in a world where we've got Eclipse Phase, we've got the current cyberpunk games? I think they go to space. We've got Lancer, which is increasingly based on the lore I've been checking out, is increasingly a game of interstellar empires and political feuding as its most interesting aspect, rather than get in mech. Although,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you get in? We're all getting mech lovers around here. Like, what recommends Traveller over some of the more pointed and focused sci-fi RPGs? Mothership's another one that occurs to me.
Mothership, Scum and Villainy is another recent one.
It's
Really trying to go. Yeah, it's trying to use the Blades in the Dark system to really get that whole Firefly style aesthetic.
And no, I'm not even mentioning the ones that we've already covered that are big franchises in their own right. Star Wars, Star Trek, like, and increasingly, is Dune RPG about somewhere?
There is a Dune RPG. There's a 2D20 Dune RPG. It is well regarded. I would say it is a complete lack of fear about having 1,000 tables, 1,001 tables to roll upon, and a complete lack of fear about going, yeah, guys, you're going to need a spreadsheet to track your expenditures here. Come on, get to work. This is not one that as default hand waves away all of the stuff.
Yeah.
This is one that goes, no, here. These are your maintenance expenses for your ship. We have a separate set of life support expenses, and some people just roll those life support expenses into the annual maintenance of the ship rather than handling it on a week-to-week basis. But I suppose people are afraid of Excels.
It comes down to what your poison is when it comes to that kind of thing. I do like the carefully pack the backpack part of me does like the idea of having to manage oxygen and fuel and things like that. It's sort of what makes that kind of hardish sci-fi game interesting, especially in ship-based stuff, because you are always watching the dials and going, okay, we're good today. What's tomorrow look like?
I would say basically what I think is one of the things is, despite Traveller being influential sci-fi RPG for all kinds of reasons, and having all over the various versions, having both established lore and thing, but also the versions where it's very easy to toss the lore to the side and go full sandbox and custom create your own sector full of all kinds of nonsense. I think the main element is that economic factor, that literal rags to riches experience, where you are going from, I own 10% of this ship, and going from that to being like this pirate baron who is feared across a dozen sectors. That kind of play experience is relatively new. Not new. Sorry, there's still not that many RPGs that really engage with that kind of gameplay, and therefore, Traveller retains a niche, even though people have copied all the other aspects of it.
Hmm.
And then, of course, there are the cool adventures that have come out and are still coming out because it is again this grandfather of sci-fi gaming, and therefore people keep being inspired to try making new stuff for it.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of Traveller adventures out there, like piles and piles of 2d6 adventures.
Absolutely, and it's there's older adventures as well, which are also well regarded. But Dronex was the one that got the most immediate. Yeah, you got to play this. This is the stuff. Even though it's one of the more, it is still a very sandboxy campaign, but there's a strong narrative running through it. In terms of what's going on. So it's a good compromise between, hey, look, you can go and do anything and do anywhere, but there are a bunch of big milestone things to go and do and hit and try out. And I think that's attractive. And people were going, oh, is it a bit much to run initially? I said, no, it's not too much to run initially. It's just giving your players a little bit of direction about what to do. And luckily, there's kind of the setup for the adventure. There is an NPC there to do just that from the check-in to say, what should we do next? They've got a generic imperative to misbehave and steal stuff and destabilize everything, but they might need to go back and go, so what should we do now? And that's a great starting point for an adventure, just to have that little bit of assistance there in case the party isn't very good at kind of being self-starters.
Not everyone is.
Yeah. So you can balance between, the what do we do now? Please tell us, sword on, versus screw you, Dad. We're going to have our own adventure. That the ability to do both is helpful. All
right. So if you're interested in checking it out and you don't want to buy anything yet, you just want to get a good idea of what Mongoose Traveller is like. There is a writer, Seth Sikorsky, I believe.
YouTube tabletop RPG. He also does a lot of Call of Cthulhu stuff.
Yeah, he's got some brilliant videos going through the mechanics of Traveller, actual reviews of adventures and stuff. Very well put together. Great delivery, lovely clear delivery. Well worth a check out if you're interested in dipping more into it and seeing what's going on.
The only mark against him, I think, is occasionally he dips into more 2010s YouTube skits, try to get a bit of a chuckle in, and
it was 2020 shade. Everyone was at home. He needed to put on a costume for some reason.
Okay, that's fair. But yeah, I think that's probably a very good place to check it out. If you like, I don't think Mongoose do. Is there a starter kit for 5th edition or Mongoose 2nd edition?
I'm not sure if there is a specific kind of starter box. They'll certainly sell you the core book, and I think
free RPG Day intro.
I didn't see a starter box. Otherwise, I would have grabbed a starter box.
Because I know again, Stars That Number has a free version of its main rulebook with a lot of things.
There have been starters in the past. There have been like Traveller starter boxes, but I didn't see one for Mongoose Traveller 2nd edition. I just said, there's the core book. I'll grab the core book, and I'll grab the companion. And the High Guard update is the ship book, so I'll grab that, and I'll get the Drynax one. The Drynax is 600 pages of content, so I said, okay, I've got a lot to chew through there, so chew through it I shall.
Nice.
So yeah, absolutely. And they've got a huge amount of content from it, books, but also like adventures. They've got you want some blueprints of the your ship. Feel free. Yeah, absolutely. They've got music as well if you want to buy some music.
All right.
Novels, that kind of stuff. So short stories. Away you go. Away you go.
Nice. Well, it certainly sounds like a wonderful set of things to revisit. Or much as people suggest you get every free book that Kevin Crawford gets to steal all the tables, maybe you can do the same with the Classic Traveler. Maybe use the life path system to make your character background, even if you're not using it to change your class, or roll up a sector or two as a setting for your next game. That a table heavy game can have big advantages in that regard for other RPGs.
Absolutely. But for now, this party's over.
Thank you for listening to The Adventuring Party. Join us on our Discord server, where we keep the party going after hours. Otherwise, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, or you can email the hosts at party@theadventuringparty.net. The Adventuring Party is released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike version 3 license, but you probably knew that already. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and look forward to seeing you back here next week. Goodbye.